queers and allies, and all those who don't identify as queer. Today's gonna be my story of how I figured out that I was trans and how dysphoria may have presented itself at a young age for me. I might be looking down as I'm looking at my phone for my notes on what to say because I tend to go on tangents. And I notice it's become such a meme or a weird thing to say, but I actually have I have ADD. So for me, I find it really hard to just sit down without a plan what I'm gonna say without going on any like random tangents. So if I look down, I'm looking at my phone to keep track of what I'm saying and where to start. Okay, so my story. I'm gonna try to start it from when I was a young kid. I'm gonna probably start around like age 6, because that's when I became more like aware of gender, I guess, for myself. But I mean, there's things I did as a 6-year-old that were just like, why? What invoked that in me for me to say that? And I remember I was around 6 or 11ish. I think I was 6 at this point. I believe I was 6. But my family I was raised to be Christian. I'm not. Spoiler alert. Definitely not Christian now, but I was raised expected to be Christian. And my family went to this new church, and I remember being a young kid and I met this lady for like the first time. I don't have any names, so like whatever. And this lady opened her mouth and out came this shrill, high-pitched voice, and I'm just like, in my mind at this point I was rebellious. I was literally like, Captain Jack Sparrow was my role model when I was like 6 or 11ish. So this lady, again, she opened her mouth in this shrill, high-pitched voice, and at the time, I was this little rebellious kid, and I didn't want to be Christian. I didn't want to be raised in that way. I didn't want to be going to church. I knew this from a young freaking age. And I remember being like, oh, that's how Christian women sound. No, I'm gonna deepen my voice, and I'm gonna keep myself from sounding high pitch. And again, I'm like, my parents should have noticed, like, by then. Like, I'm literally trying to deepen my voice to sound more masculine, more male. And that was over the radar for both of us at this point. And I remember also around that same period, I'm like, I like girls. What if I'm a boy trapped in a girl's body? And I felt that way for many reasons growing up. It wasn't just one of my boy trapped in a girl's body just because I like girls. I tried dressing femme. I tried wearing feminine clothing to make my parents happy. But even as a young kid, I understood it just enough to realize that wearing male clothing, dressing more masculine, made me feel the most me I ever felt in my life. And wearing things like a suit or just a boy's t-shirt with some ratty, ripped up jeans made me feel the most euphoric. And I remember I used to try to I stole my brother's hoodie, and I would wear that hoodie all the time because I felt so male and masculine, and I felt more me in it. But I didn't have the words to describe like male or masculine at the time. I was just an 11-year-old kid who stole her brother's hoodie and was wearing it around the house, and I just remember I felt so happy and joyful. I just loved how the hoodie made me feel. I felt like a masculine punk skater kid. And my whole life, I had this label of tomboy just tossed onto me. And for a while, I'm like, yes, that's me. I'm just some bratty teenage tomboy. And I was allowed to dress masculine up until a certain point, I feel like. I mean, I was all just masculine as much as I wanted outside of, like, family events or family portraits of, like, a special sort, basically. Like, the planned ones that were, like, going on cards and stuff. Or, like, going to parties with my relatives or going to weddings. I was expected to put on a dress. And at this point, I knew that I hated wearing a dress. And there was this one time in particular that I remember I had to take a special family portrait with my family. That's redundant. Anyway, I had to take this family portrait. And they handed me this blue, rose-covered blouse that had lace all over it. And I put it on. And I looked myself in the mirror. And I just looked at it and I'm like, I look like a monkey. I feel like a monkey stuffed into a blouse. Nothing felt right. I felt depressed, anxious, miserable, all freaking hell wearing this blouse. Excuse me. I hated it, the whole thing. Like, this isn't right, but I don't know how to put this into words. And also, as a kid, I had a blip of a memory. Oh yes, that's right. When I was a kid, growing up, I've always hated mirrors. I was like a little tiny vampiric kid who would do everything in the world to avoid looking into a mirror. I despised the heck of it, and I'm like, I just thought, well, people just hate their reflection. That's completely normal. And even as a kid, I would, like, dress up as, like, Spider-Man, put on a mask, and I felt more comfortable putting on a mask over my face in this, like, male costume form than I did just flat on looking at myself in the mirror. And I remember I would wear masks and t-shirts my whole life. And I remember one time I would wear, like, superhero shirts to my relative's house, and they'd be like, oh, so you're Superwoman, and I'd be like, no, I'm Superman, and then just wondering, like, why didn't you get that, like, why you call me Superwoman? I never understood it. I'm like, why are you calling me this, why are you feminizing who I am? Like, and I'm not Superwoman, I'm Superman. And it never clicked with me at that age. I'm like, why can't you see me as me? And I always felt like I never desired to have short hair as a kid. I feel like that shouldn't take away from my trans experience, because, like, I feel like sometimes not all trans men are like, yes, I knew at a young age I need to have short hair. I literally, at a young age, just felt like a long-haired boy. And I felt like there was nothing wrong with a boy having long hair. Mind you, at this time I was 6 and not yet into heavy rock music. But when I was in high school, in 9th, well, mostly in 10th grade, I hit this all-time low. I was constantly depressed. I had this shadow of this doom and gloom hanging over me, and I was just feeling so miserable. Like, something was off about me, and I felt like, and I did, like, a lot of mental escapism. I would listen to music, look up quotes about being yourself. All these is circling the idea of, like, be who you are meant to be. And around this time, when I was severely depressed, I had this good friend. We are sadly no longer friends, but we just kind of grew apart. Nothing bad happened between us, but this good friend at the time introduced me to a band called Black Veil Brides. And through this band, I would listen to her quotes, and they kind of, like, helped me out of this, like, depression slightly, that kind of, like, but it kept lingering even past that point. But became my all-time favorite band. And, well, I thought I was searching for some place I belonged, like a group of friends I could just connect with and just be my authentic self with. I found the subculture of emo. The emo subculture, basically. And we didn't really have much subculture in my high school, which was really, really freaking small. I mean, like, my graduation class of, like, maybe roughly 100 people. Was the biggest graduating class in many, many years. It was very ridiculously small. I mean, this high school you had high school in here, you had middle school in here, you had elementary school in here. I went to the same school from like the last year of elementary, 5th grade. No, I don't know. But the last year of elementary, all the way up till I graduated in 2015. So that's a huge time of being in this small building with all these people. Anywho, off of that tangent, I identified as emo. And I'm like, that's it, that's my label, that's the hole I'm missing, was this is who I am, this is the end all be all, my depression's gonna go away, everything's gonna be fixed, I figured myself out, I know I belong, I know where my people are. And I think at this point, I may have joined like a Black Veil Brides fandom Facebook or Instagram maybe, I don't quite remember, but I was very active in the fandom as a BVB Army member. I remember when I was in the 11th grade, I believe, I got an actual BVB member card. I still have it to this day. I'm still a huge fan. I mean, I went ahead and tattooed the logo on my arm. So, it wasn't, I mean, it's still, like, not a phase for me. I still have, I've dressed pretty much the same since high school. So, like, my friends see me from high school, they're gonna be like, you're pretty much the same. There's no glow up there. Your fashion sense doesn't change. You're just kind of the same emo kid from high school, fashion sense wise. And my outfit has changed. It's a new day. Last night my camera battery decided I've had enough of your waffling and it died. So today I'm gonna resume my waffle. And I'm gonna start with my school's dress code. My school had a dress code from elementary school to high school, and I feel like the dress code in elementary school and middle school, it was the same, but it changed when I entered high school. Now, the dress code from elementary school to middle school was girls wore a collared shirt or with, you know, slacks or skirt, and the men just wore a collared shirt and slacks. However, my mom knew from a young age I hate skirts. Like, I absolutely despise skirts and would never force me to wear a skirt. Thankfully, even in family portraits and stuff like that, I was never forced to wear a skirt. So, I never wore one, which I feel like kind of a huge flag that I was trans. Like, I always was like, I want to wear the most stereotypical male uniform, the male outfit. Very stereotypical in that sense. But I didn't know anything about it. Even though I had like these weird things where like I wanted to present more male, more masculine, more me. Also looking back at my puberty, where I literally thought I should have a mustache and go through male puberty, and was shocked and surprised when I was not going through male puberty. I used to like practice like shaving with my dad's like actual razor as a kid. Because, like, I grew up early 2000s-ish, and my family was, I knew I couldn't buy that plastic fake shaving kit, and my brother never had one. Or if he did, they got rid of it a long time ago. So, I never had access to a fake one. I always had my real razor kind of going around like this, and shaving my face as a young little kid. who barely understood gender roles, but it was like, I know men do this thing where they shave the face with the razor, so I did that. And I was like, oh, I never like planned my facial hair. I was just like, all I knew was like men, you shave the face. So I was just like, I'll just shave the face and whatever, who cares. But I didn't have words for that as a kid, or even middle school or high school. I never had words for, I didn't know what a T existed. All I knew was there was LG. I didn't know you could be bisexual. I didn't know you could be trans. I knew queer was a bad thing. Bad word, don't say it. It meant weird when I was growing up, and I'm like, and that's all I had. I had only like this like really narrow, negative tone to LGBT. And at this time, I was a Pretty Little Liars fan, like beginning of high school, mostly in middle school. I got banned very quickly for watching it, roughly around like season 3 of me watching it. I got banned because there was a gay couple. And that set in my head like, oh, right, gay, bad, bad, no gay. So I was banned from watching that as a young kid. And that never like stopped me from like trying to figure stuff out. Like, I knew it was bad, but like, again, I was very like, I'm not Christian, I'm rebellious, I'm gonna fight ways to rebel and do all, you know, that kind of mentality. And I did. So I'd like look up on YouTube like guys kissing, girls kissing, anything gay on my phone, which got taken away for that reason. I was a lovely kid. Anyway, it wasn't until like 2016 I realized being gay was not a bad thing. It wasn't this great, all-powerful sin I thought it was. And when I realized that, I began to take pride in myself and decide I'm gonna look into myself and see if there's any possibility that I could fit in this acronym. And so I found what I thought was my label. I thought I found my niche to say, and I identified as lesbian for around like 2 to 3 years. I'm gonna say 2. I think it came out roughly 2016. Really came out as like a trans man in 2018 for the first time. And the first time I came out as trans, shit hit the fan. My family was not very accepting. I knew it was impossible for me to go on T or get top surgery, and everything just was hurting and burning me. I felt like I was a peeled snail thrown into a, like, not even like the sea, but like a very salty aquarium. I was just on display for everyone. I felt like such a, like I was just on display. Like I was this character on display, and people just did not like what I was going through and who I was as a person. I just freaked out. I was like, nope, not for me. I'm gonna go back into the closet. It was safe there. Nothing hurt me. I didn't have this intense feelings of burning and pain, and being called she/her didn't bother me as much when I was closeted. It still bothered me, and I did go back into the closet because I remained out online for the most part. Again, like in my head, I told myself, you can be anything but trans male. You can be trans non-binary. You can be demi-girl, demi-boy, but you cannot be 100% male. And I'm like, that guy, he can be a trans guy, but you're not allowed to do that. Because my brain was weird. My brain's like, everyone can be themselves, but you're the special one. You're the one that can't be yourself, because that's where the line's drawn. Like, they can do whatever the heck they want to, but you gotta be this other thing, because that went bad, and we don't want to do that again. And so I did. I identified for many months as non-binary. I came out online, thought like, this is it, this is me, I'm gonna be accepted, things are gonna be great. I came out in person, in IRL, and again, shit hit the fan. But this time my parents were accepting, but the people who accepted me before as a trans guy did not accept me, and they said that I had a disability, that I was mentally ill, which was not the case. I told my therapist about that, and it was not a fun time for me. So I retracted. I'm like, nope, I'm going back into the closet. And I realized the next time I realized my identity, and I knew this time 100%, I'm like, I know now. I was right the first time I came out. I again came out to myself as a trans. I came out as bi, and then I came out as trans. And this time it fit. I knew it was right, and I remember sitting upstairs. My parents were gone. I had the house to myself, and I remember sitting at the kitchen table trying to eat food, and I couldn't do it. And I said out loud to myself, I'm like, I'm trans. And I remember just feeling so utterly depressed and anxious, knowing I had to tell my therapist, I had to tell my parents, I had to do all this coming out. And I knew, I'm like, I was like almost like shitting myself at this table, shy at like just crapping myself there, just like, I have to tell people about this. And it was just eating away at me. I was making me like super depressed, just trying to keep this thing to myself. And so I did. They came home a couple days later. I sat them down and I played Ryan Cascada's song Daughter. I played The Village by Warble. And I sat down and explained to them, I'm transgender. I'm a guy. I was meant to be a guy, and this is just who I am as a person. And at first they had many questions and doubts, per usual. And for a while it was awkward. They didn't like it at first. But I decided I'm not going back in the closet this time, because if I keep doing this, I'm just going to be hurting myself. And I know that if I just go back in the closet, I'm just going to keep coming out until they realize, yeah, this is who you are. And I decided, like, no, this time I'm not going to go back in the closet. I'm going to face my fears, and I'm going to do everything in my power to stay out and to get the transition to the person I know I'm supposed to be. And I did that, and I decided I wrote down letters of my childhood, ways I knew I was trans, and how I figured it out. And finally, after all these efforts I put into all these letters of why I need this, why I need top surgery, why I feel the way I feel, how I knew, all took these 4 letters. 3 to 4 letters, I can't remember exactly. Much trauma, much panic. So I kind of blocked out most X's. It's like, no, bad, all bad, go away. So I wrote down like all these letters, and I handed him, and through those letters and through my words describing how I felt and how I always knew I was a boy and should have been raised male and should have a male body, they realized, yes, you need top surgery. It's desperate. You really need this. And this is who you are. You are a man, and we're realizing that, and we're slowly accepting that. And that's where I am today. My parents are much, much more accepting of me. I'm on the path to testosterone. And I'm finally on path for top surgery eventually. We'll see when that happens. But I'm on the right path now because of all these steps I took as a 23-year-old and in 2020. And I'm forever grateful for 23-year-old me for sticking to it and staying out. No matter how hard it got for me, I stayed out. I knew I had to do it for myself and for my sanity. And I'm so proud of me for doing that. I applaud myself. And yeah, it was hard to go through those changes and try to figure myself out. I'm grateful for my path and the way it went for me. And anyway, this has been a really long tangential waffle. I'm gonna end it here. If you liked the video, hit that like button below. Subscribe and ring that bell for more content like this. I may actually try to feature my rats in my next video. Or I may talk about transition and what it means and what transition may look like for other people. So hopefully you guys stick around for that video. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.